My mortgage was $11,335. And I remember it because, dude, I didn't have the money most of the time. I was so uncomfortable most of the time.
But literally from living with your mom and sister at working the doors, fixing the knobs, doing the whiteboards, answering phone calls to now owning the property management, probably about a $10 million equity. That's pretty impressive.
One of the things that I learned when it comes to like having big, ambitious goals is this: believe you can have it and start playing for the next. What's going on, STR Nation? This is your host and your brother from another mother, Emanuele Pani, here with the man himself, Mr. Mike Riley. What's going on, Riley?
I'm doing awesome, man. Today is one of the best days of the year, I think, aside from like the holidays, but it is the start of the Masters today. So we're recording this on Thursday. This is going on Monday. So you guys probably know who won already, but I do not. So I'm going to enjoy a lot of golf this week.
Who do you got your money on?
I didn't put any money down. I'm not a big bettor. I'm much better off investing in real estate than sports betting.
There.
I can somewhat control that, but I mean, it's hard to bet against Scheffler, number one player in the world right now. And he won the Masters last year. Hard to bet against that guy. I think he's like 4 or 5 under right now on his round. So he's top of the leaderboard. It's gonna be hard to bet against him.
Well, if you guys watch this on YouTube, right, he's wearing all green just to be in the Masters team.
I'm greened out.
Have you ever gone to the Masters?
I have. 2011. So long time ago. And it was awesome. One of the best sporting experiences. If any of the listeners have the chance to go. And if you have the chance to bring somebody, send me a message at Mike Riley NC on Instagram. Please send me a message, and I'd love to be your plus one.
Please send me a message. Like, please do it. I saw your story, and you were out videoing the beginning, maybe, of your son's golfing career.
Yeah. No, that was so at the Masters. They do this honorary, I like opening tee shot, and it's always like Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, and then Tom Watson. Used to be Arnold Palmer, but Arnold Palmer passed away, I think, like 5 years ago now. And Arnold Palmer is one of the reasons why we named my daughter Palmer, aside from there's another Palmer in our life that's really special. So we did a little honorary starter today, and she teed it up. I got her this nice new pink driver.
How was her? I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I thought it was Woods.
Well, Woods was there too. Woods was there too.
Both. Yeah.
A little bit of a golf analogy there too with Tiger. Tiger Woods is one of the best golfers, best athletes of all time. Probably not the best person to model as far as family life, but an insane athlete. So,
well, I do love his videos with him and Charlie going out and playing golf. Those are quite fun to watch.
That is pretty cool. Cool. So today, I'm excited for today, because I think a lot of our listeners obviously know Mike Sjogren very well. Then I've kind of come in, but I don't think we've ever done an episode on the brother from another mother, Emanuele Pani. So on this episode, we're going to dive into your story, my brother, and how we started in real estate and kind of what that whole start, you grew up in Italy. I'll let you get into your story, but start from the beginning. Like, grew up in Italy, came over here, and have been an absolute savage ever since. But let's get into it, man. I'm curious.
Yeah, man. I would love to. So what's funny is that I've never told the whole story. So when I was 6 months, actually, my dad was doing his residency at Georgetown. And so we came to the States when I was 6 months. And so I lived in the States. I spoke English before I spoke Italian. And then when I was 3.5, we moved back to Italy. I lost all my English, right? But our family always had this dream about coming and living here. It was a big dream for my dad. It was a big dream for my mom. And so fast forward to high school, I was an exchange student. I went from Sardinia, Italy. For those of you that don't know, that's an island in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean. I could see the ocean from my house. And through the Rotary Club, I was sponsored by a family in Harrisonville, Missouri. So that was in
Midwest, yeah, middle America.
Dude, like, I had a Justin Bieber style haircut at the time. back in the day when he had like the bangs covering his head. And I remember walking out one of the first winter days that it snowed out, and I never lived in snow before. And my hair was wet because obviously when you're 16, you leave your house with your hair wet. And I remember my hair visibly freezing. I was like, huh, this is now home. But from there, moved to Switzerland for college. I went to university in Geneva. And there is when I realized I wanted to be in Wall Street. I wanted to work in banks. I always loved money. I always loved the good life. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna work in Wall Street. Graduating in 2010, as you guys remember, the last big financial recession in Switzerland, banks weren't hiring. And so, out of an interesting relationship in college, I was my mom and dad were like, my mom was living here. My sister played tennis at the Chris Evert Tennis Academy, and my mom is like, why don't you just come here? And I was like, okay. And at the time, they lived at this place called Courtside Villas, and it's called Courtside Villas because it is right next door to the Chris Evert Tennis Academy. So you see the courts.
By the way, guys, the Chrissy Everett Tennis Academy is one of the best tennis academies in the world. I grew up playing lots of tennis just like he, and it's a great place to go. And there's a ton of good players there. So it's right across the street, literally.
Right across the street, right? And so I got back there out of college, degree in accounting and finance, didn't really know what to do. And so I met the gentleman that owned the Courtside Villas at the time. His name was Hanan, well, it still is, Hanan Benavi. And he needed me to work weekends. Hanan he's Jewish, and so Friday nights and Saturday he couldn't work. So it's like, look, you have good English. The other guy that worked there, his name was Jack, but he was Israeli too, so he had a very thick Israeli accent. And it's like Jack can answer the phones. He's he actually scares people away when he answers it. And so it's like you sound okay, so why and you're good with computers. So I'm like, why don't you work and start season? So that was December 2010. At that time, my dad had bought already the apartment that my mom was living in. And so Hanan has sold in the last big boom. Hanan is a brilliant, brilliant businessman. He's my real estate dad, is how I describe him, right? And so when he bought the apartment complex as one, right? It was an entire apartment complex. And then he subdivided it, did individual portfolios, and then ended up selling each one of the properties. And then when the last financial meltdown happened in the States, he started buying them back from people. And so in that moment, there was one of the apartments where my mom was living in at the time that Hanan decided to sell my dad. Then I start working for him. And right, my job was literally answering phones and then doing maintenance and helping the cleaning girl to do her checkout procedure and then the pre-check. Right. So I would go in, first person to go in, take all the garbage, put all the laundry to wash. I joke a lot. I used to open the fridge and be like, awesome, what's next? What's next? What's next if people leave me, right? Because again, tennis families are amazing because they're super health conscious. And so the fridge will be full of just yummy, right? Like whatever. And so I used to like put the laundry to start and everything else, and then I would check it before the guests would come, right? And then it so happened that Anand was getting a divorce at the time. And so I'm talking about like a year. So I started in 2010. This was like a year and a half in. And Anand was like, why you're doing so well? Why don't you buy this management business from me? So at the time, the apartments were what we now call rental arbitrage. So even those people that Hanan sold the apartments to, he had agreements where we would rent the apartments, pay them a flat fee, and then we'll rent them short term. And so that's how I got started. And then so little by little, come 2012, Hanan decides to leave. And then he helps me because at the time I was 22, had no credit, no nothing. And so him and my dad co-sign a loan, an $800,000 loan. And then Hanan owner finances another $800,000 for me. And that gets me to 12 apartments altogether. And then it gets me to the management of the courtside villa. But brother, at that time, this was 2012, I was running the villas the same way Hanan always ran them. Right? So we had 4 big boards in the office, and there was red and black ink. Red ink was people coming in, black ink was people coming out. I had an Excel spreadsheet that had the unit name and then the reservations under it. And I would physically process credit cards over the phone. So people would call me and I would take the credit card number, write it on Post-its, right? And then have it in my agenda. And eventually when I get my stuff back from my house, I would love to show you guys what that looks like, right? And I remember having a yellow pad, and in the yellow pad, there was in and out. And that's how I kept track of things, man. It was a yellow pad, in and out. And so fast forward to when Mike and I met in 2015, that was me. So I was still running and doing everything myself. I used to have maintenance Wednesdays where I would go around the complex and do the things. But the way that I ran the business was I would work in the office in the morning. And then from 3 to 5, I would do all the maintenance around the complex. But there was always this like hunger that I had. And from the beginning, right, you can talk to people that have now sold me their apartment. My good friend Fernando, he's from Brazil, but he remembers me telling him, one day I'm going to own all of these. I had this mortgage, brother. My mortgage was $11,335. Right? And I remember it because, dude, I didn't have the money most of the time. I was so uncomfortable most of the time, to the point that I had an agreement with my teller from Bank of America, and I would show up the day my mortgage was due, right? So in the 5-day grace period that you had, I would show up on the 5th of every month, or on the 4th if the 5th was on a Saturday, and she would hand me $11,335 in cash. And I would drive it up the street to BB&T Bank, and I would show up with $11,335 and my mortgage statement. I was like, can you deposit this in here? Because that was the only way I could pay it without incurring any late fees or anything like that. Because literally, bro, most of the time I didn't have the money because I was guaranteeing 45, 50 grand worth of rent at the time.
Yeah, right. From the arbitrage.
Correct. And again, Florida. In season, I was swimming. But then summer comes, you're like, oh, shit. And so, dude, and if any of my former owners listen to me now, some people used to get checks. So I would sell them checks. And dude, sometimes I would tell people, like, like the check didn't arrive. I'm like, it's so weird. I sent it to you. I didn't send it. I didn't have the fucking money. I didn't have it. But I was comfortably uncomfortable because I knew the game plan, right? Like I knew where I was going. And so fast forward to 2016, we did the first refi ever. And so with the first refi, I was able to pay off Hanan to whatever I owed him on the owner financing units. And I was able to buy 6 more units, right?
Yeah. So 2010, I'm just recapping it. 2010 to 2012, you're working the whiteboards, the phones, maintenance man. 2012, that's when you buy your first 10 units. Seller finance plus your dad guaranteeing a loan, BB&T.
Yeah.
And so you also have this management company too that you bought as well, right?
Correct. So Hanan gave me the management company because he knew that that's how I was going to be able to afford to buy and pay him, right?
Pay the note, yeah.
Correct. And then we start stacking up the money. And then again, the plan was always in 2016 was to refi, right? And then I bought, in the meanwhile, in 2015, I met Mike in M1. And I started understanding, listening to Bigger Pockets and all the things. And I'm like, there's this thing called owner financing, which I knew I was doing, but I didn't understand what it was. right? Because Hanan set it up because he's like, that's how this is gonna work. I'm like, cool. And so through owner financing, I got two more units for people that like were owners of ours and we were renting to them, and I had this conversation. One of them, Mr. Don Edwards, was an amazing other mentor, right? I've been very, very blessed and fortunate to have lots of mentors throughout my life. But because I've always been comfortable just letting people know, look, I have big ambitions and I have no fucking clue. And in real estate, as in most areas of life, people will have this tendency of taking you under their wing. So 2016 comes, between the owner financing, the refinancing, and everything else. We end 2016 with 20 units altogether. And then, dude, I get distracted, right? I start buying apartments with other people's money in the Midwest. And we start raising money for other buying people's money. We bought 100+ units in about a year with my business partner, John. And I have this moment that I'm like, do I want to do the villas? Like, is this what I want to do? Or do I just become a real estate syndicator and just do this full time? And so I lose focus for a bit. Then I also get my real estate license. So I wanted to become a big time real estate agent. So I would call people and all the things, and nothing was coming from it. And then come 2017, end of 2017, that is the worst year the villas has ever had because I lost focus, right? I started worrying about other things. I started thinking about other things. And so I have this moment that I'm like, what am I doing? Right? Like what's going on? And so 2017, I decided, I'm like, okay, we're gonna like start working. And by the time Mike started doing a lot of his stuff with the chalet in the sky and everything else. And so I start listening to Mike and the things that he was doing, right? And I started incorporating some of the softwares and everything else, and I started looking at like different things to do. And then the idea starts brewing that I want to buy more units. So I start having conversations with people. I start going to a bank in 2018, but I can't get financing because of the way the business was and the tax returns were and everything else. So 2018 becomes a year of like, I'm going to build and work on the foundation and kind of fix things up. And I have this guy from a bank that is like, look, come back to me in a year from now and I'll finance it for you. So I'm like, okay, fair. So 2019, I go back to him. We file taxes. And we're like, okay, taxes are done. It's like, yeah, these look good. It's like, okay. So what do we need? It's like, well, start getting properties on the contract. Then once you have them on the contract, come back to me and we'll talk about it. I'm like, okay. So this was like April, May, right? Taxes are filed and everything else. So I start having these conversations. Well, when I got distracted, one of the units was sold to a family from Turkey. Their kid played at Everett. And they were like, look, man, we're not selling ever. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And the other one, I had sold another one as an agent to a family from Ukraine. Their kid also played at Everett. Because at the time, dude, I was distracted, right? So I'm like, I'm going to become an agent. So I'm going to sell them this property because I don't want it. Like, I'll do the management, but I don't want it. And so those two, just remember those two because I'll talk about how hard those two were to get. But 2019, I started negotiating and I get 18 apartments under contract. So out of the 20 that were left, I get 18 of them under contract. This is September 2019. Closing end of November. I go back to that guy. I'm like, hey, I have the apartments under contract. He's like, well, actually, our bank strategy has changed. We're not lending on hospitality anymore. I'm like, oh, shit. Now what?
And you've got due diligence money in place.
18 apartments under contract, dude, of people that like know and trust me because I've been good to them for years. Right. And so people start pushing and be like, so what's going on? I'm like, oh, yeah, like the thing happened. Right. And so I have, and again, once I get my stuff back from home, I'll share with you guys, but I have a yellow pad where there's just the unit numbers on them and whatever, know they go under contract or not. Right. And then I start going through banks. I had 7 or 8 banks say no. because one was like, well, your loans, you have too many separate loans, you have to consolidate them and everything else. It was all a shit show. But I remember me and John decided to go to UPW. And this was like October or November 2019. And that day, I'm like, okay, I made a decision, right? This is going to happen. No matter what happens, this is going to happen. And so I found a bank that would lend me. Their name is Corvus Financials. Come to find out, they're not a bank. They're actually like a private group, right? And so fighting, find a way, get appraisal. Okay, this swings. And so February 2020, I buy 18 apartments. I have the biggest mortgage of my life, right? The biggest mortgage of my life, right? My mortgage was $48,000, right? Of interest only loan. Because the goal was I found another bank that then was gonna, once I had all the loans under one, they're gonna refi it out. But Riley, what happened March 2020?
Yeah, COVID.
Right. And so I have this moment, April 2020, where everybody was getting forbearance and delays, that I called this bank and I'm like, hey guys, everybody's getting a forbearance for a month. Can I have, this is a 60/40 LTV loan, right? So they know what they have in their hand, right? And they're like, you can have a week. So dude, anything that was empty, we switched to midterms or long terms. Got a bunch of security deposits first and last. Dude, I had to cough up so many security deposits when this all ended up because I didn't keep a single cent, bro. I gave it all.
Tennis wasn't going on. Like nothing. There was nothing. Yeah, everything was shut down. Yeah, and you just got this loan.
Dude, and its families that were here ever shut down, and they're like, we're leaving. What about you have? They're like, come chase us. So that was that. And then we all know what happened in Florida, right? With COVID. It was actually some of the best times of my life. But it so happened that the unit of the Ukrainians that I had sold to them, it so happened that in that moment they wanted to rent it to a long-term family, and that family ended up being somebody that took advantage of the eviction moratorium and stopped paying. And so after 10 months, those people were like, I'm never going to sell to you, ended up coming back and selling.
I bet. Funny how that works. And that was your last.
Well,
that was the last unit.
That was my 39th unit. And then there was a Turkish family left. The Turkish family, a different family, right? They have the money. They love tennis. Their kids love to play. And one of those families, brother, there is not, he's going to become pro. He just likes to play tennis. So we're going to buy an apartment. The grandparents will come from Turkey and stay with him. The mom, the dad will come, whatever the situation was. And so in that moment, though, when I got the last one, something very interesting happened. And that's where the skills of a real estate investor really start coming in, right? I knew that being an association, I not owned 39 out of 40 units in the association, which meant a couple things, right? I could collapse the association if I wanted to. And what that means is like, you as an owner, you have to sell to me if I collapse it. At market value at the minimum, right? But you have to. The other thing that I can do is I can special assess. The villas needed new roofs at the time, new windows, parking lot, swimming pool, garden. Obviously, I'm going to hurt too, but you're going to hurt too. And so we had this moment, and they're lovely people, right? So we had this conversation. I'm like, I would like to buy your place. And they're like, we told you we're not selling. I'm like, no, I heard you. And this, I went there for breakfast, right? Strong Turkish coffee. I think that helped a lot of my courage, right? Just this strong Turkish coffee. And like, look, Akif, Gorkam, those are their names. I was like, we can do it one or two ways. This is what I'm willing to pay you guys. And that lesson cost me like an extra $100,000, right? Of what the market would have deemed. Or I can collapse everything, do special assessments and everything else, and then make you sell what you want. So that was the story of the 40. And then
Godfather came in at the end.
Dude.
Or there's a third option, right? You know, there's a shovel out back and I'll bury you where the Italian mafia comes out.
Dude, that is
awesome.
And the beauty of the story is and this is the last piece. Around those times, I also met an insurance adjuster. No idea what they were, no idea what they did. But his name is Peter. He lives in the community next to ours. Meets my head of maintenance. His name is Beto. And I was like, Beto, you know that based on the last hurricane that came, you guys can submit a claim and get all these roofs done. And Beto's like, I'm going to talk to boss. So Beto calls me. He's like, hey, we can do this. And this was like in the beginning of 2020. So as I was still negotiating. Well, guess what, Riley? After I bought the last property, guess who ended up winning his claim with the insurance company and getting all new roofs and getting 60% of the money that I needed for all new windows.
Funny how that works. The timing of it works too.
And so that was the story of the villas, my friend. And then in the process, I've done all kinds of real estate stuff, right? John and I have 2 partners in Charleston. We've done 2 syndications. This was in 2021. We have completely liquidated the properties in Missouri. One of them are at a 24-plex that caught fire. Ended up learning some other lessons there from insurance. They don't always go your way, right? But I have loved it. Like, I've loved every aspect. And I do miss, you know what's funny? I do miss my maintenance Wednesdays. Like, it was fun. I could ride around in my golf cart. I wore flip-flops to work every day. Like, I had the flip-flop 10 line, 24/7, 365. And I got to like be with people and meet people and make their vacation amazing. I have this family from the UK that comes, and I've got to witness them come year after year. As the parents used to rent the 3-bedroom and 2 of the kids live there, to now the parents rent the 1-bedroom and each one of the kids has their own place because they have their grandkids and everything else. And that to me is like what I love about hospitality, right? Like, I feel so honored that people, like, dude, I've had guests that I inherited from Hanan. They still come. 18 years, 19 years.
Is it all still, how is it broken out? All still short term, some midterm?
Yeah. So I do 10 to 12 apartments, or what I call the Chris Everett rentals.
Block. Yeah.
So it's the Everett Tennis Academy families that stay with us for the school year. And so the way that I designed, and the reason why it's 12, is because that covers the nut of my mortgage.
On the mortgage. Exactly. Yeah.
And then that allows me to play with everything else.
Yeah. Everything else you can just play Tetris and figure out how to maximize.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Beto and his wife have one of the apartments, because obviously to me that's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
100%.
You know?
Little mini E.
Yeah.
Coming up to the ranks.
You know? Yeah. And the beauty, man, now, and the lesson. So the funny thing, right, when we were talking before the show started, one of the questions that you asked me is like, how did you even have the idea? And like, dude, I've always wanted big things in life. But what I'll share with you guys, it's one of the things that I learned when it comes to like having big, ambitious goals is this: believe you can have it and start playing for the next. Because if you don't, the moment you hit it, it's not going to feel good. It's not satisfying. Because if you, like me, have been seeing it this entire time, you knew it was going to happen. And dude, I felt so lost, so lost. I didn't know. I lost, like, my identity was tied so long to the maintenance guy that was trying to buy the place, that was doing everything he could, to then having it. And I was like, I don't know what I want. I don't know who I am.
Is that when you lost focus? Like 2017 time?
No, that was when I actually bought the last one.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you hit that big goal. You're like,
yeah, you hit it, and you like, and then you like are aimless. And dude, it
what's
took
next?
me. Yeah, but like it took me a while, and it led to it. And again, like, you know, like my marriage went the way it went afterwards and everything else. So it's led into like the last couple of years have been interesting, right? Because again, like I had this dream all along, and then I got it, and I didn't know what to do after. I didn't know what could come next. Part of me felt like an imposter. Like, why me? Like, why? I definitely got lucky, right? Like, I cannot do this again.
Yeah, but like when we talked about it a little bit earlier, it's funny how things work out. I mean, there's this one song that one of my favorite bands plays is called Fortune Favors the Bold. I know it's another saying too, but you get lucky through putting your stuff out there. I
Hmm.
mean, from taking big risks, you get luckier that way, especially if you have the faith. And that's what happened to you, man. I mean, like from maintenance man to owning the 40 units, how much are the 40 units worth? How much is the courtside villas worth?
So the last time they were appraised was 10,850,000.
10,850,000. And then your equity on that is what?
The loan was for 6.7.
So you pretty much own about half of, well, at the appraisal time, it's probably worth much more now. But literally from being there, living with your mom and sister at the Everett Tennis Academy, working the doors, fixing the knobs, doing the whiteboards, answering phone calls, to now owning the property management. And then, I'd say probably about a $10 million equity in those 40 units. That's pretty impressive. And I don't think a lot of people know that either.
Mm.
I didn't know that until today.
Yeah.
I knew a
Yeah.
little bit of this story, but there's so much more that comes with it too. Like we've talked about, like Hanan, your mentor,
Hmm.
and finding good mentors throughout the way. And you're one of the most selfless people I've ever met in my life. Just always giving more than you get, than you receive. And I feel like that's what good mentors do,
Thank you.
is just are always giving. And because you learn from those folks too, that were given to you.
Yeah. And again, I was very blessed and very, very fortunate. And again, if you listen to the story and it feels to you, you're like, well, shit, like there was a good bit of luck. And I'm like, yeah, perhaps, right? There was definitely some. I was very fortunate to have a dad that believed in me and to have a business dad in Hanan that also believed in me. And yet at the same time, if you read Think and Grow Rich, Edison says this about the guy that goes to talk to him. And it's like he looked like a bum, but there was something in his eyes that just kind of told me that there was something there. And that was my thing, man. And then the other huge lesson for me has been in how much people like us that choose to create, get to create for the rest of their life. Because if I look back at like what made me lose my center, in 2017 is when I started chasing things, right? And in 2020, 2021, dude, I just lost sight because I didn't have anything that I was chasing after. I just didn't have it. I got comfortable. I just stopped chasing. I started, worrying about losing it and not taking big.
Even though you had just got all these units, all 40 of them, and you got
Dude,
$6 million of equity in them.
dude, but the moment life, the when you don't have chips is when you play the ballsier, right? And that's the thing that I am also sharing with you guys because I'm like, if you're listening to this and you're in that moment that you're like, hey, my life is a shit show. My God, then what's the worst that's gonna happen, man? Just what could how much worse can it get? But also by the same token, how much better, right? Because if you're in the shitter, well, you know what worse feels like. What does better feel like? And then there's a constant training and a constant being around people that push the envelope. And that's what I've loved Secrets, right? That has been my biggest joy in being part of this community. Because, dude, I remember Walcon, the first year Walcon, the people would come up to me and tell me the story about how they quit their job. And I remember getting messages from you, and you're like, dude, this podcast that you and Mike did like changed everything. And honestly, that was more inspiring to me than my own story. Like seeing how brave some of you are when you take that chance with your families and your kids and your two jobs and everything else. And you actually take a stand for you to change your life. It's an honor to be part of that. and to have been part of so many people's journey. Because, dude, like, I don't know if I would push as hard as I push without you guys. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would push as hard as I push without Mike pushing so hard, without you pushing so hard, with the Patsy pushing so hard, you know, the Menapace, right? All the people that are in our community, the truckies, like, I see so many amazing people accomplish amazing things. And one, it reminds me of how powerful we are as beings. And two, man, it just reminds me to never settle, right? Like the little me, that was 21 years old. I could see him now. And now I'm like, okay, how do we keep making him proud?
Yeah.
Right? Because owning the villas was the goal, but wasn't the destination. It was just a stop. And for a long
Yeah.
time, man, it became a destination. Like I got comfortable. I got
Mhm.
scared. Life changed. I stopped pushing. I got addicted to things, you know, had a terrible addiction. And so like, I don't know. But pushing it's and being around
Pushing
you
and
guys.
being around good people. Yeah. Finding that tribe.
Yeah. 100%, man.
Finding that tribe of good people. I mean, whether it's like through a team, you know, growing up playing tennis, it was all by myself. But then going to Penn State, playing tennis there, it was like I had my team. And then after that, getting into the corporate world, like you had a team, but at the end of the day, you know, I think the business cares a lot about the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like a team. They want to make it like a team, but then when I got into this real estate space and started meeting some good people like you and Mike and just started finding my tribe, that's when I was like, all right, I can make this jump. It's funny. I was looking last night to, I was rewatching like some of my old tennis stuff, like Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite. But um, there was an interview that I did in my junior year, and one of the questions was, "What are you going to do after college?" And I was like, "I'm going to start my own business." And looking back, I was like, where did I get that idea? I always knew I was going to, but then I got in the corporate world and then all of a sudden like started investing in real estate. But it's just like, if you guys are out there that have that, like that yearning, like he was talking about, to do something bigger, and you feel like that's your calling, you need to do something bigger, and like, you know, it's coming from deep inside you. Find people like Hanan, find people that really want to help you do it, because there's so many people that want to help you do it, and don't be afraid. Don't be shy with it either. I remember you used to say secret agent. Don't be a secret agent about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell people what you want to do, and I guarantee you there'll be somebody that'll be there to support you. And if not, you just keep persisting.
Yeah.
You call, how many banks did you call
Dude, I realistically,
in
and
those
I'll
few
find the
years?
thing, right? But it's probably 7 to 8. But that's with like people like Riley, I had people expecting that money at that time,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? And I remember this old guy, his name was Chip. That's what he went by. Do I know if that was his actual name? I have no idea, right? But he was one of those people that gave me a reality check. He's like, listen, little boy, you can't fuck with me like this. Like, I made other investments because you say you're going to have the money. What are we going to do now? I was like, Chip, you're absolutely right.
Chip, you know I'm from Italy, right? You know I'm straight from
I
Italy.
don't know, bro. Chip was from one of the parts of the country that, like, I think he has like pigs and wolves in the backyard there. I don't know if I would, I don't know if I would mess with him. But the thing is this, right? Dude, I didn't know. I didn't know how I was going to do it, right? I didn't know. And I remember even breaking down the actual board, and the way the board was broken down, I had the easiest conversations first. I had to, because I was petrified, because most of these people didn't even know that I had taken over from Hanan, right? Because the business name was the same, the checks were the same. So we didn't tell nothing to anybody, right? Because one of the biggest lessons that Hanan and my dad told me was remain the man in the shadows. And still to this day, man, I'm the man in the shadows. That's why so many people don't know anything about my story. Like, I will answer the phone being the only person there, be like, I got to talk to my boss. I'll let you know. I've always been the small guy. It's never been my decision. There's always somebody else. Even today, like if you call my phone and I don't know who you are, my assistant Daniel is going to answer the phone. I am Daniel, right? Daniel is one of my best friends. That's where the name comes from. I'm like, you know, And then the VAs came and everybody else came and life is amazing and so on and so forth. But dude, the biggest lesson Hanan and my dad gave me is like just be humble, be the man in the shadows.
Yep. And keep taking to, I've got a page of notes here, but I just wrote down, even if you don't have the money, just have the faith, have the persistence, stay focused, even when you're distracted, get back to that goal, and then surround yourself with the good people, with mentors, with people who will push you, people who inspire you. There's going to be ups and downs, but if you do those three things, it's going to turn out okay. Like you're going to be good. We're going to get through whatever this, like, whatever's going on in the economy right now. I mean, well, really in the markets, the economy, we really have no clue with the tariffs and everything, what's going to happen.
No idea.
But stay focused. Stay focused. You're going to figure out how to get the money and take some risks. I'm going to do a live here in like 5 minutes. I think right now is very similar to 2020. I think it's very similar. I think a lot of people are scared more than ever. There's not a, worldwide pandemic, but there's a worldwide trade pandemic that we think is happening, which is huge. So whether I was analyzing hotels today. I've been analyzing properties the last week. I've been adding co-hosting units too. I've been still helping people, mentoring people. It's just like getting out there, just taking action. When people are scared, like smell blood a little bit,
That's the time. And one of my real estate mentors, his name is Ben Grieb. He always used to tell me, listen, kid, your story ends well. I'm like, how do you know? It's like, because I do. Everybody's story ends well. Right. And so there was the moment, Riley, when March 2020 came and April mortgage came, I didn't have any money. I had that moment, and I remember being on the phone with my dad. I'd gone to pick up my brother-in-law from Penn State because that's where he went to school. And so we were driving back down to Florida from Penn State.
Must be a good guy.
He's an amazing guy. I miss him a lot. He's an amazing guy, and I miss him a lot. And we were driving down. I remember being on I-95 driving back down and being on the phone with my dad. And my dad is like, what are you going to do? Like, what's the plan? I'm like, well, we're going to switch everything and rent them long-term, mid-term, find the money for this mortgage. And that's plan number one. It's like, okay, what else? I'm like, well, Dad, I don't know. But what I do know is that none of the scenarios I have in my head end up with you dying, Mom dying, Marty dying, Tati dying, or me dying. Worst comes to worst, whatever we can salvage, we salvage. I move back to declare bankruptcy. I don't know. But all I know is that I'm not going to die. And you're not going to die. Mama doesn't die, Marty doesn't die, and Tati doesn't die. Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure out
We talked about that last week too with Adam on the last podcast. It's like when you're in that, what did he call it? Sink or swim mindset or a survival mindset. You're in that survival mode. You make bad decisions. If you can take a step back and just say, hey, I'm not going to die. Like, I'll be okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll find a way to make the money, And now, sharing the story, it reminded me how much, yeah, dude, here and now, just got to keep pushing. Right.
Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate you and sharing your story because I think this is the first, I could be wrong, but first podcast that we've like gone through start to finish on the Courtside Villas. I'm going to share this with everybody that I know at least, because this is really inspiring. And
yeah, and if you play tennis, we're next
to the courtside.
Hey, dude, we're next door to Chrissy, and we still support them and a lot of other tennis academies in the area and golf academies, and that's been one of my niche, right? That's why we book so heavily direct. It's because we are the Courtside Villas, and it's just like we've been there and we understand. And yeah, and I look forward to sharing the story on the next boutique hotel and the next thing and growing the property management business. I've been a little bit stuck when it comes to that due to separation, divorce, and everything else. So I look forward to updating you guys as things happen, you know?
Yep. And also, guys, if listeners, if you want to find your tribe or you want to be mentored by me or E, feel free to send us a message just on Facebook, Mike Riley at Mike Riley NC, and then Emanuele Pani as well, Courtside Villas. Send us a message. We're happy to see if you're a good fit to join our tribe, because they're doing some amazing things. I just saw Jake Martin just put in his notice at his W-2 after a long time, I think like 10 years in corporate sales. A lot of people in corporate sales jobs just getting together, find their tribe. We all figure out ways to find the money. We all figure out ways to grow the business, buy that hotel, buy that STR. And I can't do the day-to-day without STR secrets and the mastermind and knowing you and knowing Mike. And it's a pretty special place.
100%. Yeah. And anything that we can do to support you, even if it's just a conversation, right? Like we're here for you. I am a huge believer that like by the same way I receive lots of love, as you guys know now from my story, even if it doesn't become me in the fit, you just need somebody to like have the conversation with and understand, okay, like how can I get to the level where I am ready to join something like Secrets? Just come talk to us. You know, like we're here to serve, and that's the whole thing that Riley and I and Shogun talk about is like, okay, how do we help people? Like, how do we help people this month? And that's all. So I do hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you, Riley, for putting me in the opposite seat for today. We do hope you guys got lots of value, and we'll be back to normal guests and our normal stuff moving forward. And yeah, that's it. Ciao, guys.